If our teachers cannot teach with a cross behind them, why do they get to teach with the pride flag behind them? This is a war on our children, and if you don't think it's happening, I'm going to Duncan tomorrow to go and speak with others that have seen it down in Duncan, Oklahoma. It is happening everywhere.
I met Melissa Remington during the school bond fight for TPS a couple of months ago. She's associated with an organization called Parent Voice, Tulsa. And she had reached out and her and a couple of other people and said, hey, look, we need some help on this school bond issue. Can you help? And you know me, I jumped right in. Because Deborah Gist didn't need any more money, in my opinion. She'd had plenty, and I think Melissa will be able to tell you now. In fact, make sure you tell them, Melissa, how much how much per child.
$28,000 of our tax money is going to each student, quote, quote, to each student. We all know where it's actually going.
So that's in Tulsa. That's Tulsa Public Schools, $28,000. What could you do with just half of that for your children or your grandchildren, you know, when you consider that that's a per child cost? I met Melissa. We worked on the school bond. She went last week and on behalf of all of us and parents across Oklahoma, and she spoke to the school board on behalf of House Bill 1775, which you know bans critical race theory from being taught in schools. So she and Leah, who spoke last month, and a teacher from in the Tulsa area, went and spoke before the school board, which helped promote and get the emergency rules put into place. So Melissa is a parent. She's an activist. She I don't think she ever intended to be an activist, but she started seeing things that were going wrong and decided that something needed to be changed. She's the person that's at the school board meetings. She's the person that knows what's going on. And we can learn a lot from Melissa and how that we should be handling and we should be attending our school board meetings and what questions we need to ask. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Remington. It's not for projection, it's just for, okay.
I gotta be honest, I'm not a public speaker. So this is a little bit intimidating to see everybody here. I think I should talk about, like, how did I get started? Bob, Jack, and I actually can attest to this. I had a teacher reach out to me and said, Melissa, is there any way that you can look at this slide? I cannot actually be vocal about what's actually happening in our classroom. And I said, sure, I'll take a look at the slide. So it's a professional development slide. It's something that is asking our teachers to teach through a social justice lens. And I looked at it, and then it said something about how capitalism was basically being referred to as almost as racism. And it just shook me to the core, and I said, okay, fine, I'll go get an open records. So me and Bob, and I feel like you're my wingman in this. Sorry, Bob, to call you out. But Dr. Griffin and me and Bob all set out on a path to call in the storm groups and say, give us the open records. We want to see your professional development. What is going on? Because she would deny it and say, that is not my slide. We had her logo, Tulsa Public Schools logo, and she would look at us and say, that is not my slide. And the very first thing that it said was, we want our teachers teaching through the social justice lens. We all know what that means. Personally, I don't want my children being social justice warriors at 7 years old, telling me that they don't want to go to bed, and now they've created a revolt against me. So, anyway, so Bob and I had went through that. We got our open records finally fulfilled. And I kind of just like set it to the side because, as we know, parents were going through distance learning. We were really kind of frustrated. We could not get our kids back in our schoolroom. As Governor Stitt, and I even made that joke with him whenever I got to meet him in person a couple weeks ago, had joked, and I said, thank you for being our bully. thank you for standing up for us and getting our kids back in the schoolroom, because that was the hardest thing that could ever happen to these poor children that had no stability and spent over 300 days outside of the classroom. So he said he'll be our bully anytime, of course. I mean, why would he not? But anyways, that's what I appreciate about our governor, is he has actually heard the calls from the parents. I'm not talking about the lobbyists. He heard the call from the parents and he ignored them and said, what can I do? I'm here to make this happen. So then House Bill 1775 gets basically created. Here we are. And I saw that. I got contacted because I kept asking for these things, and somebody said, Melissa, you have those slides. And I said, oh yeah. So I sent them everywhere. I sent them to every single legislator in this state so that they could be able to live with themselves with that very first screenshot of the social justice on there. I said, this is not about history. This is about why do they want to do social justice for all of our subjects? If our teachers cannot teach with a cross behind them, why do they get to teach with the pride flag behind them? I just don't understand. It bothers me to the core, not because of even my religious affiliation, but more so, we should not know their sexual orientation. We should not know their religious associations, according to what they've been telling us for this whole time. But we also should not have to have our children subjected to be indoctrinated with this political. This is a war on our children, and if you don't think it's happening, I'm going to Duncan tomorrow to go and speak with others that have seen it down in Duncan, Oklahoma. It is happening everywhere. It is so infiltrated. There is no boogeyman. It is here in Oklahoma, and don't think for a second that what they're saying, that the Oklahoma Standard is what they're doing, because guess what? These teachers can bring in their articles. They can ask for crowdsourcing of money to bring in the curriculum and call it resources. Mm-hmm. So again, this is not curriculum. This is what are they bringing in through the teachers. That's why the teachers got so angry, because they knew we are paying attention. We know where the data came from. We also know that the professional development that, again, your tax dollars, your federal funding, and all this grant money, that there's some certain organizations that are helping write these grants to get this in our classroom. And they are some of the most profitable. They're amazing. They are so generous. What you would think in Tulsa, but they are not. They are not our friends. They do not care what parents say. They try to shut us up. They try to tell our teachers that they don't get to have a voice when it comes down to actually teaching and caring. I personally want more tenured teachers. They are getting pushed out the door. We've got Teach for America. If you're very familiar with that, you will know that they are here and they are the majority of these classrooms because of the fact, and they're coming from all over the country to tell us that we're crazy. We have to do what they're saying. No. Oh, it's awful. You did? You taught for Teach for America?
No, but I had to teach with teachers from Teach for America, and that's where they come in and they were trying to change in our school. We shut them down, but
wow.
But we were one of the only schools with 5,000 teachers in it for elementary school.
Oh my goodness. Well, and that's actually what I've heard a lot of. I've spent a lot of time with Tina Craig, who, and I only say her name because she's retired now. She's not scared of anybody coming after her. But Tina and we count down the days till her 30th. And she wasn't retiring because she had to go take care of anyone. She wasn't retiring because she was tired. She was sick and tired of being bullied. If you do not believe it, ask our teachers just a simple question. Are you allowed to speak with me frankly about what you're teaching in your classroom? Can I come sit in your classroom just for a whole day? And you will be surprised. They will tell you no. Personally, I have a problem with that as a parent. Because guess what? I was forced to see it by Deborah Gist, because it was right there. All these teachers teaching these things to my kids. And I was like mortified. If you haven't watched the national news, they'll even tell you that they had to tell parents, stop watching the teachers. Are you really going to sit there and watch those teachers? Of course you are. You can't look away from a train accident. So with that being said, I'm here because of the fact that I have been led by a higher power at this point to be like, no. And I don't care how many times Deborah Gist calls me out and says, oh, you're just that radical parent. If you were not watching the whole state board meeting, I'm going to tell you guys something at the end happened that was very powerful. Western Heights had a state takeover. That's because of the fact that Western Heights was not doing what the state was asking them to do. They literally had their superintendent say, we don't have to do what the state says. And I mean, there was other things there. There's financial mismanagement, CARES money, which we've been asking about. Where's our CARES money? We can't get real answers. There's over millions of dollars being spent on credit card services. And we're just asking the simple question, what are you guys using credit cards for? How many people have my credit card information that can just go use it at the clubs down at Las Vegas, as we saw with Nathan Hale's school happen? So I'm asking for people to get engaged. I'm asking people to recognize you are not alone. If you were scared before, you have nothing to be scared of. Tulsa Voice is actually making Tulsa Parent Voice is actually putting those slides out. We want people to know. And if you get scared of being called a liar or that this is quote, quote, fake news as now they're using against us, talk to me or Bob, we'll tell you. It's okay. You can say whatever you want to say, Deb, but we know the truth. It's here.
Melissa, I want to make sure everybody knows, we've got one advocate on our Tulsa. We've got one advocate on our TPS board with Dr. Jerry Griffin. If you haven't met Jerry, he's a brilliant man, and he's going to have a town hall meeting he was going to have it right away, and I think I talked him off the ledge because it was getting a little bit. He was trying to do it too quick. He's running down the hill, so he's going to have a town hall where he's going to rent a venue, and he's going to let everybody come and talk and ask questions. Because, as you go to the board meeting, you can ask a question, but it's like talking to that wall there. You don't hear nothing back from. Well, what Jerry's going to do is he's going to have a town hall, and I would hope, folks, that we would have 200-300 people in that town hall.
Absolutely.
We need to swarm that town hall with parents and let everybody know what's going on. Yeah.
They gave us the pronoun training. And the preschool teacher immediately went out and refused to line the boys and girls up in boys and girls lines. The kids weren't allowed to be in a boys line or a girls line anymore. I think it's so important, though, what you guys are doing. It's very easy for them to curriculum switch.
Yes.
The school board approves a curriculum, and then they do the online version. That's the updated version, which is got some terrible stuff in it too.
Yeah.
I'm very, very glad that you guys are doing this. Very glad. And the thing is, how do we keep on top of the curriculum? And how do we keep on top of the training? And who's representing? Because they put it in writing that they're against Judeo-Christian values in that teacher training.
Yes.
It was in writing. So who's actually representing Christian believing, Bible believing teachers? Who's representing them?
Guardian Redeemers. I just started it 2 months ago. I'll have cards available afterwards, but I'm a public school teacher for TPS.
Teachers still have to belong to the NEA?
Yeah, so I represent I'm the founder of Guardian Redeemers. I started a Christian group of public school teachers, and we are boldly living out our faith in the classroom, modeling it and restoring morals in our schools the way they were when schools first started in this country. That's the way they were. They were Christian, and we are saying no to the curriculum. We're just saying no. We have the power to say no, and we're emboldening these teachers to not be afraid and to put their paycheck after the well-being of these students. That's what we are encouraging. And yes, we're putting our jobs on the line, but at this point, it's too important. We have to fight.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. One other thing that I did want to bring up, because a lot of people don't know this, because they think, oh, this is just a flimsy rule. We've all heard Deborah Gist literally say to people, okay, we're in compliance. It's not over. You got to show that you're reporting, that you're giving parents and the grandparents and anybody else that has a problem with what is being taught or how it's being taught, the ability to be able to report it. That also goes for educators. So we're not just going to report it. They also can lose their accreditation. this can also go two ways. So this is what I'm actually pushing for, is that parents do not report it through TPS because they're not giving us the ability. They're already showing that they're going to be defiant to the law, which should scare everybody, honestly. But report it through the state. So I've got an email out to the state today, this morning, that says, please tell me how I can report this, because this is the response that I'm getting is, well, we don't have to come up with a policy. We don't have to do the reporting. Did you read the rules that Joy Hoffmeister put into action with the vote of the majority of the board? And, you know, it was really interesting to me that if we don't stay diligent on this, this bill is going to be gutted, because there is so many people behind me, and the boulder is so big. And I'm talking about the money. I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 people in this state really know, but they are literally there, and they want to make sure that we are gutted. And it is also the Oklahoma State School Board Association. It's CCOSA, which I think I'm saying it right. But the point is that they are so powerful. We have a lobbyist in Tulsa. I don't know if you guys know that. Our district spends $75,000 on this lobbyist. So if you don't know that, you know it now. So we need everybody to get empowered. This is going to take grassroots. This is going to take passion. It's definitely not going to take actual, just saying, oh, well, let me just give you my money. We got to get activated. So we are asking her for that. Tulsa Parent Voice has sent an official letter to the district. We're working on an actual email for parents to ask the teachers, can we see your curriculum? Can we sit in your classroom? Because we don't know what else to do. So if anybody has any ideas, please let me know.
Stephen has something to share.
Yes. I lived in Oklahoma City, and I went to the same church as Sally and Steve Kearns was, and Sally Kern was a representative. And I showed her these 2 books published by David Barton, and they were in-depth courses in the Old Testament, another one in the New Testament, and they were mandatory to graduate from high school in Dallas. And she was living there at that time, growing up in Dallas, Sally Kern, the stoning of Sally Kern, that's her book. Well, I just want you to get that picture that this is what was taught in the schools as mandatory back when she was growing up. And so we need to return to that place to have the cross in the back instead of the pride, which is a profane type of thing.
And it's happening. I want to make sure it's very clear. I'm not just using that as an example to scare anybody. That is a school called Unity Learning Academy. I called it out, and I had a flood of people saying, take this down. This is so homophobic. No, I'm asking you, why is this okay to have this? And I've got the example. I can share that with you guys if you'd like me to, but it's there. The name of the elementary school, that is a Tulsa Public School. This is not a charter. This is a Tulsa Public School. It's called Unity Learning Academy. And
What part of town is that in?
north on Yale, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sheila had something to.
Thank you. Boy, we are so lucky to have Melissa, and I've met with her, and I really enjoyed that conversation, and thank you so much for what you're doing, because it really does help legislators do a better job. But I'll just say that in addition to reporting those issues to the state, and I agree that you've got to go beyond TPS, please reach out to each representative and senator and get that information to them, because that's how we become more involved. We have so many issues. We can't take the time to micromanage a lot of different things. We have to look at things in a big picture perspective. Also, do not let the OSSBA and COSA intimidate you. Yes, they are powerful, but if they were so powerful, we would have never passed 1775.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we are capable of aligning this ship in the direction that it needs to go. It is a pleasure to be here today. I'd like to have a relationship with each of you. Please reach out. I'm more than happy to hear about your concerns. Thank you again, Melissa.
And thank you for being a representative I can call on. You're not in my district, but I have called on Sheila the minute I realized we've got a woman that is ready to make the schools be better. And what you're doing is so important. And I am so grateful that you picked up the phone in Jinx to say, oh, you got Waldron? Okay, well, let me help you. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much appreciate it.
Question?
Okay. Oh, one more of this guy in there.
I know. Well, I thought I'd grab you. So House Bill 1775 when you look at institutions of higher learning and K through 12, it breaks them up in two different groups, okay? And so for the institutions of higher learning, it just bans required teaching, making it a requirement in orientation. Now, so here's what the universities do, is they sneak it in through their diversity program as optional teaching. I'm in a battle with Tulsa Community College. And by the way, their diversity programs are not diversity of thought. They're single point narratives that they're cramming down their throat, all right? So I've been in a battle with TCC because they teach critical race theory here in Tulsa on their diversity website. So if you don't believe this is in the school system, which I know we do because we see it every day, it's also in the universities. So let's not forget about that also. So.
Okay, Peggy, you had something?
Well, Tucker Carlson made the recommendation several weeks ago that cameras be placed in every public classroom in America. I think that's the greatest idea. And have it so that parents have an ID and a password to dial in and see what's going on in their kids' classroom. Because
And CARES money can pay for it. All that CARES money can pay for it. Yeah. We want it. We're fine with it. And if our kids are being bad and we get to see the incident, I'm okay with that. Because that's what the teachers actually try to tell me is, do you want to see your kid being back? I said, yeah, please. Please show me.
I just wanted to state that this has been brought up. The subject of cameras has been brought up, and Nathan Dahm is currently looking in to see if we can use CARES money to be able to put cameras in every classroom. If our police officers have to wear cameras, then there should be cameras so that we can see, just like you say, what the teacher is teaching, but we can also see what children are misbehaving. Because if children know that their parents are watching, they might not be so bad. Little turds. Hang on just a second. She's got one.
Two more things I wanted to say. If you look at the Tulsa Public School website, the three...
You're going to have to speak loud. Project.
The 3 R's are no longer reading, writing, and arithmetic. The 3 R's for Tulsa Public Schools for the last several years have been reasoning, relationships, and rigor. And the social emotional training and the social justice training is what the newbie teachers are getting. They are not teaching newbie teachers how to teach reading. That was my biggest frustration at our school, is watching newbie teachers come in and they were required to go to all the pronoun training and the social justice training, but they didn't get the actual training on how to teach reading. And so it has not been a priority. Actually teaching children to read and write and do math has not been the major priority for Tulsa Public Schools for years.
Oh my.
And the other thing that I saw happening at a training that was coming from Oklahoma City, where they were talking about, I was a 3rd grade teacher, we were talking about that law that says Reading Sufficiency Act, you got to pass the test to go to 4th grade. And they were working on changing the literacy objectives. And one of the trainers was going, well, in your classroom, how many books in your classroom library feature an LGBT character or feature a non-traditional family? And you know, it's one thing to have books like that in the school library, but for them to be requiring that to be in each classroom library, that was another objective that
They want to normalize that our kids should not be able to read for the Constitution. They don't want kids to know the constitutional rights.
Well, and isn't that why they don't want to teach cursive writing? Because to look at the original documents, I mean, even knowing cursive, they're still kind of difficult to read in the original, but if we can't go back and look at them in the original, can we be assured that we understand what they actually say? And the more that they can isolate children from these kinds of things, the more that they can then indoctrinate them to these other social issues, these other, ideologies that, for the most part, are not American values. Who you are, what you do at your home, that's you. But to impose these things as all being normal for every single family and to embrace values that the family should choose for the children, families get to choose their own values. This is not something that the school should be indoctrinating our children to.
Definitely. I think this gentleman had a question too.
Yeah. one drum I beat for years is that one way that the left has driven choice of curriculum by districts for decades and decades is through the Oklahoma State Textbook Selection Committee. And like almost nobody talks about this. Like this whole room so far, we haven't said a word about it. And it's like, this is how, this is the limited little list that districts have to choose from for each subject matter and grade level that can be funded by state funds, curriculum funds. Districts can use other curricula, can use other textbooks, but they have to pay for it with district funds, and they won't do that, of course. And so this, for years, I beat this drum, and we've had it in our state Republican platform off and on. Most years it is, I believe it's in there now. We've called for it. It's just kind of quietly there from the precinct level up through. We've kept it. Anyway, we call for the abolition of the state textbook selection committee, and this is, we hear the term local control schools. Look, I'm for local control schools. That's almost, from a practical standpoint, it's almost nothing more than just a little throwaway campaign line for Republican politicians. And we don't have local control of schools.
We definitely do not.
And anyway, it's like when I ask people, do you go down and look at the correct curriculum up for adoption from the State Textbook Selection Committee, the OSU Tulsa Library? It's like nobody. Nobody goes down. Anyway.
When is that review held?
Well, it's there all the time.
Okay.
Anyway, but it's not all the subject matter for all grades at all times. It's only the material that's been approved in the last year, but it may have like 8th grade math and 3rd grade math and 8th grade earth science.
Yeah, we actually showed up to that last year.
Well, and that's something that we could, if we had a team of people who would commit to do that, it doesn't have to be every single one of us doing it every single day. But if we have a team of people who are good at reviewing textbooks, who are good at looking at that kind of stuff, maybe you don't like to be up here in a speaking position, but you like doing the research. You like doing the deep dive on the materials that are being used. We need people to do that so that you can report back, so that we can then show up and say, no, this is not the curriculum that needs to be included in public school curriculum and in the classroom. So we need warriors, research warriors, to this sort of thing. Real quick.
Yeah, but my point is not, yes, go down there and look at that now. That's fine. But my point is, that room shouldn't be there. Those books shouldn't be there. The State Textbook Selection Committee shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. That money should be available. State funding, if it even should be there. State funding for curriculum should be like on a grade level per student basis, just given to the districts, and the districts should have their own textbook selection committees or directors, whatever.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My point is that this committee should be abolished.
Yes.
It's illustrative of who's pulling the strings on that committee. When 12, 15 years ago, lo and behold, if you remember when they passed that little one paragraph rubber stamp that was supposed to be stamped in the back of the evolution textbooks, which they have entire textbooks for entire semester class called, it's just teaching evolution. Okay, there was some conservatives got them to pass a rubber stamp that had to go in the end papers of those books that said, this is just one theory regarding explaining the origin of life and the origin of the human species. Okay, they got that, and the world blew up. I mean, from the Tulsa world and the newspapers on down, that within weeks, that requirement was gone.
Yeah.
Because the left, that would not stand.
No.
They were going to, the people were going to make the board resign. We're going to point out, this is outrageous.
That's like our bond dollars. Our bond dollars went to textbooks, and we asked them for a list of the curriculum that they're going to be buying with our bond money. They would not give it to us.
Wow.
Why won't they give us the list?
Melissa, if there were 3 things that parents and concerned students could do now to really get involved, what are 3 things that you could point us to do?
I think educate your friends. If everybody would actually tell your friends about House Bill 1775, they do not want us to know that we are empowered to make something happen. I think that also making sure that you're reporting it. Don't just report it to the state. Don't just report it to TPS. We are looking at how can we actually come up with a website to report this to a secondary source. And I actually spoke with somebody earlier today, and I asked them, is there any way that we can come up with a website? We've got to have a platform. Because Oklahoma Health Parental Rights down in Oklahoma City, they have a way to talk about the mask mandate that we do not have to wear a mask to school if we choose to not have our kids wear a mask.
And they still doing it.
Well,
For high school, for summer school, I just found out last night that they're requiring the mask on these kids. I said, kindergarten.
Said that they're requiring masks in public school for summer school courses, and that's patently unlawful.
Yeah. As of July 1st.
Right?
So, yeah, but I'm saying, like, as far as it being like a law, you asked me for the third thing, though. The third thing that we can do is support those that are actually being active. Like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but like, support our legislators. They are getting tarnished by, being told, oh, well, you're just being a racist. Be willing to speak up for those legislators, because they're not being racist. They're just asking to protect civil rights, that everybody should have the ability to be in a classroom where the teachers, we don't know any of those things that we talked about: sexual orientation, religious affiliation, political affiliation. I feel like I'm back in 1960s and having to even say this to people, because we don't have those other things, but we're getting there. We're getting divided on purpose.
Melissa, is there a document that says your rights under HB 1775? Is there a boiled down that a common parent can just look at a document and say, here's what it is, instead of having to read through the bill and try and get all that out? Can we get a bullet point document? We need a bullet point document that we can sit on our GOP website, Rhonda, and so people can look at it and say, here are your rights under HB 1775.
There is the rules now that the state has put out as of last Monday. Monday.
Yeah.
They're actually the temporary rules, because that's actually where the bite comes from, is the state has to enforce it. So I think that, I've put out a couple of things, but it's not perfect. So if we could I would be more than happy to be part of a committee that came up with that and got it on the website, but I don't feel comfortable just saying what I think, because I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, and that's what I'm concerned. I'd like to get something we can post that people know what their actual rights are.
And tell them again about the August meeting that you're talking about.
Yeah, and Jerry, and that may be a good opportunity in August meeting to ask Jerry and maybe we can get help from Sheila on that. Yeah, is there a bam, 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 bam? Okay,
that's
thank you.
That's what I thought.
Scott McEachin, who's here, also said that District 4 and 7 need to really show up at that August meeting.
Absolutely.
Because the representation there is imperative. We need to have folks, if you're in those districts, show up. David, you had something or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys, we have already in statute from all the way back in 1953 solid criminal prosecution. It calls for criminal prosecution, and between 1 and 14 years in prison if any employee of any subdivision, including schools of the state of Oklahoma, if they directly or indirectly teach or justify becoming a member or become a member affiliated with the Communist Party or Cominform, or justify directly or indirectly revolution, sedition, treason, or a program of sabotage, or the overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of Oklahoma, or change in the form of government thereof, by force, violence, or other unlawful means. Okay? And for that shall be punished by imprisonment in the state prison for not less than 1 year, nor more than 14 years, and in addition thereto, the person shall forfeit his or her office or employment. So who wants to follow this is in statute. It's Title 51, Section 36. This is 36.6. But we already have it, guys. We have not used it yet. We need to start looking at it. It's sitting right now on the AG's desk, I am told. And so for a reasoning why the various divisions are not requiring their employees to take an oath of office. But this is something that we can use right now, and Melissa, this would be great for you guys to be able to use it.
I was getting ready to say, can I have a screenshot?
Yeah.
They've got a new AG that was just announced this morning, guys. Everybody know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. John Sullivan from Tulsa, who is a solid Republican, and John O'Connor. I'm sorry. Yeah, John O'Connor. John O'Connor was named the AG this morning. There's a press conference at 10:30, and he's going to be sworn in today at 2:30. So he'll become our new AG. I talked to him last night, and he's a solid guy, and I told him I have some issues, and he said, "Great, we'll talk next week." So I'm going to talk to him next week. So
That's fantastic.
Well, in the interest of everybody not melting, let's give a round of applause for Melissa and her time here. Thank you. And parent, grandparent, concerned citizens, let's step up and step into this fight for our kiddos, for our future. Please get involved. Help us fund the upcoming school board races by donating your change. And Melissa, can you stick around for some questions afterwards?
Sure.
Okay,
and
wonderful.
Don't forget, we've got sign-in sheets for both the Rooster Days and for the State Fair.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for being here. We appreciate it.